Now, I'm going to say something crazy, and before you grab your knives and pitchforks, let me explain. Even though I'm a carver and I love freeforms, sometimes freeform is not the way to go. And I think this is going to be one of those cases. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if any of you have been carving opal like I have, you've come across something like this. This is a Mintabie stone sent over by the great Pulitzer Opal, great YouTube channel. Check him out if you haven't already. Most of you probably should have already. This piece of Mintabie could be a problem. I'm not entirely sure yet. There is plenty of good face and good bar floating around the place, but this little metal oxide inclusion here, most likely an iron oxide or something like that. If you've dealt with this material before, you know this could go anywhere. This could be a major problem. And unfortunately, shining a light in here doesn't help too much either. We need to get it out, and we need to get it fully out. You can see right over here in this top edge, that's what it'll peter out to. I don't even want that left in there. I want that all gone. So we're just going to chase it. We're going to chase it and carve it out. The rest of the stone we can kind of do whatever we want with. It's pretty clean. It's very clean. It's a very weird shape. Got a nice little red bar at the top. Turns a little bit greenish blue towards the bottom. We're most likely going to lose this little center section here. Now, if you were going to be cabbing it, you would do a slice down here and then just try to cab a stone out of that. Or you would probably just do a slice across here, or just simply grind that back on the wheels until it's all gone, and you'll be left with this stone here, which is still pretty much what's going to happen here. But because we're carving, we're going to carve this one out just in case something magical happens and make this a nice face. We might go for a pretty standard shape here. I'm not 100% sure yet, but we'll see how it goes. And to do all of that, we're going to go pretty aggressive. So sintered diamonds, I am going to start with the 80 grit. I've got a fair bit to remove. That'll do a bit of the edge removal just to round off a little bit and remove this iron oxide. But before we get all the way through it, when it starts petering out, we're going to switch over to the yellow. If this were a softer stone, I'd probably start with a blue or red and then go to the yellow at the end. But because it's Mintabie, we always start with a black, because it is, in terms of opal hardness, it is right up there. Mintabie is tough as nails. And then we're going to follow it up with these little guys, of course, the Nova points, 280 black, 600 brown, 1200 grey, and then the 3000 rose. Mintabie opal is pretty good with cerium oxide, so we'll go with cerium oxide and felt at the end. And we should have something shiny and pretty nice looking. Just don't know how this is going to go. Only one way to find out. Let's get spinning. Mintabie opal, no messing around. 80 grit, sintered diamonds, straight out, and we're going hard and fast. I'm just going to rub away at this black material until it's gone, and the only way to do that is by dipping it in the water. You'll see me constantly doing it and washing it away, because a lot of the time, it's hard to explain to a beginner, but you can actually cut this opal by feel. Sand and opal carve very differently, and because you've got that close connection with the rotary tool, you can really feel the transition from one to the other. But when it comes to removing this kind of impurity, it's got no difference in feeling at all, or maybe just very slight, very minor if there's a little bit of sand trapped in there with it. So you have to do it by pure visual cues. So I'm just going to carve away pretty hard, pretty fast, very direct. You'll notice I'm not sweeping across the stone as much as I normally would. That's because I'm really just working away at this. Like a dentist on a cavity, we're just drilling it out. Towards the end, I will start going off to the side, and you'll see me removing and kind of rounding off the edges. That's super important to do, otherwise you're gonna damage your Nova points. And we, above all else, don't want to damage the Nova points. You really want to do as much of the carving, as much of the heavy lifting as you can with the 80 grit sintered diamond. With Mintabie, I don't even leave anything up to the 600. Tiny little edges and stuff so it doesn't chip. Mintabie is really hard, it's also really brittle, so the 80 grit sintered diamond I don't use on any fragile kind of edges. I do that with the 600, but even shaping, most of the shaping will be done with the 80 grit sintered diamond. It is just such a tough stone to deal with that you just don't want to leave it up to something like the 600. You'll be there all day. Really, you want to spend like an hour on this stone. You don't want to spend multiple sessions of 1 hour on this stone. It's just way too slow. So we're just going through. Now you can see I am targeting those edges, just sweeping across them, rounding them out. Just makes it a lot easier for the Novas to get in there. The smalls do reach a lot of small places, but the sharper an edge, the sharper a carving, the harder it is to get in there and polish it. So then I'm switching over to the 600 grit sintered diamond, and you can see now I'm hitting all the edges. A little bit of minor shaping, but mostly we're just getting rid of the edges. I'm also gonna just hit every surface that the 80 grit hit. It's a huge task for a Nova point, a 280 grit Nova point, to go from a 80 grit sintered diamond all the way through to the 280 stage. It's a huge effort. It's just way too much. No matter what stone you're working on, I always hit it with a 600 grit sintered diamond before going to the Novas. Even if you're just not even going an 80 grit, even if you're going like a 200 or a 400 grit, you still want to go over it with the 600. You want to give the Novas the least amount of work possible. Really, with most of these stones, apart from the really soft ones, I highly recommend you go with a sintered diamond burr of a 600 grit. With Mintabie, I say you have to do it. Like, you can't even really use electroplated or sandpaper on these, because you will just burn through it so quickly that really the economic value of it, it really does. This is where the value of the sintered diamonds come in, because I've been using this burr that you can see on screen for maybe 3 years. And look at it. It's like it's day one. It's completely unharmed. It might be a little bit smaller. I have to compare it to a brand new set, but I see this thing lasting for many more years, hundreds if not thousands of more stones, even big ones. These things are absolutely as close to impervious as you can get, and they might seem like a bit of an expense at first, but if it allows you to do Mintabie, which is a great material, and a lot of other harder stones, not opal, then it's definitely worth it. And then after that, we'll transition to the Nova points, 280, 600, 1200, 3000, and finish it off with some cerium oxide. Now, one thing to notice on this is, yes, I am just basically sweeping over the face as evenly as possible. You just want to make sure you're getting rid of all the scratches from the previous stage, and I'll have a video coming up where I can show you what each of these stages actually do and what they look like. And then just finishing it off with the cerium oxide. If you look carefully, you can notice that in the top left with the 280 Black Nova, the stone is still pretty foggy. Now, you can't see the stone too well with the cerium oxide one because the cerium oxide solution is all over it. But even if you look at the 3000 Nova in the bottom right, you'll see that the stone is already starting to clear up and look nice and shiny. It's a very quick process. It's amazing the transition between the 280, 600, 1200. Between all of those, it looks night and day between each stage. The 1200 and 3000, not a lot of difference, and then the cerium oxide just makes it gives it that foil edge. As soon as you spend a couple minutes on it, I'd say between 5 and 10, you'll get that real foily kind of colour, and it's really what we're aiming for. So I'll show you now what it looks like at the end. Now, I'm going to say something crazy, and before you grab your knives and pitchforks, let me explain. Even though I'm a carver and I love freeforms, sometimes freeform is not the way to go. And I think this is going to be one of those cases. So I have actually given it a full polish. If we just grab a tissue and dry off the face, you'll see it's come up really nice, really shiny, pretty good. I'm going to keep it underwater just to magnify a few things that we can talk about, starting with the back. So if we flip it over, you can see here's that channel. All of the black stuff disappeared. All you're seeing there is a little bit of a shadow effect because of the lighting that I've got. And it does go in quite deep. I've leveled it out a bit, but not fully, and I'll explain why in a minute. Now, my original plan was that I would set this in a bezel setting with an open back and leave that carving bit exposed. Maybe do something a little bit more patterned with it. Maybe do some lines coming out from the center. But the more I look at this stone, the more I don't like that idea. And what I'm going to do instead is get my super thin blade, which I haven't shown on the channel yet, so that's a good opportunity, but a super thin blade to cut off this entire, I know it's a really nice looking color, but this entire yellow green bottom edge section down here. It's almost drawn a perfectly straight line down here and then straight across here, and you can see that's the chunk that's hanging off. I could easily just grind through that with the sintered diamond, but I would rather get the blade out, cut it off, and then have that for some inlay work, because it is a really nice color. It's very different to the rest of the stone, much more multicolor, much more green. The rest is pretty blue and red, so I will save it, but unfortunately I think it has to go, because if I do that, you'll see that I'll be left with a very nice stone, and when we take that edge away, instead of the face sitting kind of like this, where it's a little dull, just because it's Mintabie, it seems to face a little bit better right here. That's when the blue and red just absolutely kick. Rotated up and down, blue from that angle, red from that angle. Absolutely amazing. Proper gem-like material. There's a little bit of gold scattered in there, but the camera doesn't pick it up quite so well, and you have to be on a fairly sharp angle like this. And then a little gold twinkle comes through. But I think that over here is a much better face than this one just here. This one starts getting a little bit dull. It's when the Mintabie starts getting a little bit shy. So trim off that section there, and then we're going to lay it flat like this. And shape-wise, I'm not too worried. The top and the bottom I've left quite square. That's going to have to change. I'm going to have to bring the top edge in. It should give us a little bit better color play anyway. It'll roll a lot better. Cabochon's a really good shape for opal because it does help the color dance a lot more, and you can see here if I round that a bit more, we're going to get all that color leaping out. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and I'm going to actually be able to bezel set it. I'm sure there's a fancy way you could do it, and a claw setting or something would also work, but for my jewelry stuff I really am committing to the bezel setting. I don't know why, I just really like it. Unless someone was paying for a custom piece that was a claw setting in particular, I think I am going to try my hardest to get good at bezel fitting, and that will take a couple years, so I can't be messing around with other things at the same time. Maybe in the future, who knows. That's the plan for this one, unfortunately. A little bit of a slice, I don't know what I'll use that for. That little inlay can be for any kind of project. I might just slice it up and put it in a ring or something. Definitely keep it aside, and it's certainly useful, and that will remove pretty much all of this back carving as well, which is unfortunate because you went through the effort of removing it, but you always have to remember you can cut more, but you can't bring it back once it's done. So even if I wanted to, I could polish up this entire side, even though I'm going to slice this part off, but I didn't because I'm pretty certain that I'm going to get rid of it. Which, if you stick around, you will see, and if you stick around even longer, you should see me set this into jewelry, because I am kind of getting there on the silversmithing. I've learnt a lot, and I'm almost ready to start stitching together a couple videos and showing you guys what I'm doing wrong. Or at least hopefully you guys can identify it, because sometimes I have no idea. I just watch other people's videos and try my hardest to learn. That's a really good angle there as well, actually. That's when the red absolutely takes over. Amazing stone from Pulitzer. He's always got the good stuff. This quality Mintabie is much harder to get these days and costs a lot more than what it used to. And I'm sure this is some old stock he's had for a long time. Man, I wish I had a lot more money 10 years ago. But unfortunately, we live in the present and we've got to make do with what we've got. So I'm going to call it quits on this one for today. Nah, not really. I'll probably keep working on it now. But in a couple of weeks, you'll probably see a more finished piece. So stay tuned and you should catch it in no time. I've got another secret project that I'm working on and should be releasing very soon. So I will get back onto that and hopefully you see it. It's going to be probably the best thing that I've done in 2024 so far. Maybe the best video for the year, so don't miss it. Catch you guys.